To maintain their grip on the global technology market, Western nations engineered a massive systemic blockade. Their strategy relies on a multi-layered digital fortress designed to starve Eastern AI developers of raw computing power and distribution. The foundation of this effort is the Silicon Wall. In 2022, strict hardware embargoes were enacted to cut off access to advanced microchips, intentionally engineering a decade-long technological gap. Next comes the cloud wall. The major hyperscalers, companies like AWS and Azure, control 2/3 of global infrastructure. They act as a filter for the enterprise clients who generate 90% of all AI revenue, quietly excluding Eastern models from their libraries. Finally, there is the regulation wall. Corporate lobbyists in Washington draft AI safety standards that prioritize market protection over security, creating administrative barriers that are difficult for foreign competitors to clear. These 3 layers were constructed to guarantee Western dominance, but they have instead created a rigid trap that cuts off the world's most profitable customers from global innovation. That intended 10-year technological gap has already collapsed. Rather than suppressing Eastern development, the Silicon Wall forced an aggressive acceleration in domestic manufacturing. Chinese tech firms like SME are now mass-producing immersion DUV lithography machines, the complex hardware required to print modern microchips. They are currently fulfilling 70% of the domestic market's demand. With the hardware in place, a fully functioning sovereign compute stack is now active. The geopolitical strategy of starving the East of processing power has failed. This leaves Western enterprises in a difficult position. The global market is now flooded with highly efficient foreign AI models, but Western companies are legally locked away from utilizing them. To stay competitive, these organizations urgently need a structural bridge to bypass their own government's failed walls. That bypass exists inside Palantir AIP. By utilizing an architecture called Bring Your Own Model, or BYOM, Palantir has created a strategic gray zone that shatters the blockade. This system architecture map illustrates how BYOM operates as a politically neutral hub. An enterprise node establishes a direct API pathway to an external AI model, totally bypassing the central gatekeepers at AWS or Azure. Organizations can seamlessly plug in to leading-edge, unapproved systems like Kimi K3, without those models ever appearing in an official cloud catalog. By keeping their infrastructure independent of the major cloud providers, these companies maintain access to the highest computing efficiency available on the market. When software can establish these direct bridges, it transforms a political barrier into a technical choice, giving organizations an operational path forward regardless of official cloud filters. But bypassing the cloud monopolies introduces an obvious vulnerability, piping proprietary corporate data into an unvetted, potentially risky foreign AI. Palantir solves this by reversing the standard flow of data. Under their sovereignty protocol, the external intelligence is forced to visit the secure data, rather than sending the data out to the intelligence. This timeline visualizes a single query within the prompt lifecycle. A specific packet of context leaves the secure enterprise vault, pings a black box AI model, and returns with a generated completion. The moment that answer returns to the vault, the original prompt is instantly deleted. The sensitive context never enters the external model's long-term training matrix. This precise mechanism neutralizes the opacity of modern black box models, making it entirely safe to exploit foreign intelligence without risking intellectual property. The motivation for enterprises to adopt this workaround comes down to basic math. The Western AI ecosystem is currently suffering from immense systemic fragility, driven by interconnected debt. The sector is operating on a precarious foundation of hardware-backed debt. Companies like CoreWeave are securing billions in loans using GPUs as collateral, only to spend that cash on more hardware from NVIDIA. The capital requirements for closed Western systems are staggering. OpenAI owes NVIDIA $50 billion, Microsoft owes $20 billion, and Stargate demands $500 billion. In contrast, Eastern developers operate on a principle of brutal efficiency. Their compute efficiency multiplies exponentially every year, allowing them to do much more with a fraction of the hardware. Western models require over $100 million, but DeepSeek V3 achieved 90% of GPT-4's capacity on a microscopic budget of $5.6 million. Furthermore, Kimi K3 achieved a world-first ELO rating of 1419, comfortably beating Claude Opus 5 and GPT 5.6. The massive capital inefficiency of Western models is causing their leadership position to collapse, turning the adoption of faster, cheaper external models into a strict economic necessity. The systemic barriers isolating global AI are not falling due to a foreign cyber attack. They are simply crumbling under the weight of their own economic absurdity. The wall is eroding because its economic cost has become higher than the value of the protection it provides. The organizations that thrive will be those that prioritize technical agility, using architecture to access intelligence wherever it happens to lead.